According to a UNESCO study, approximately 32 or 1 in every 3 kids of the global youth population suffers from some form of bullying. It is believed that the COVID-19 pandemic further increased this figure. However, it is a common misunderstanding that bullying occurs solely in the school environment. Within the workplace, the environment can be toxic to the extent that employees are bullied. Mental health can explain the behavior of bullies, but also the impact of those who are bullied. Today, I am joined by no stranger to the program, psychiatrist Dr. Varma Diyal Singh. We will pay special focus to bullying, what leads to it, and what can be done to help these situations.
Today's Vitaminette features riboflavin, or vitamin B2. Vitamin B2 is a key component of coenzymes involved with the growth of cells, energy production, and the breakdown of fats, steroids, and medications. Most vitamin B2 is used immediately and not stored in the body, so excess amounts are excreted in the urine. Vitamin B2 is found mostly in meat and fortified foods, but also in some nuts and green vegetables, dairy milk, yogurt, cheese, eggs, lean beef, and pork, organ meats like beef liver, chicken breast, salmon, fortified cereal, and bread, almonds, and spinach. And that was today's Vitaminette.
So we're talking about bullying. Bullying is a topic I think everybody can relate to. How common is it in your practice?
Global figures show that, like, for instance, the UNESCO, that body looked at it globally and said it's around 32% of children are bullied. And after the COVID, the figure went up a bit. So we're looking out at, we're still waiting the new figures. So it's about 32, 37% of children
so
globally.
About approximately 1 in 3 kids are going to experience being bullied.
In school, yeah.
But bullying, as we were talking before, is not just in this classroom or the playground. It's not limited to that, but it can occur in the home as well as in the office.
Yes, so definitely when you look at bullying, it's really that behavior where you are using your power over an individual by actually doing aggressive acts, like you may be verbally trying to control that person or violent towards that person, or even omissions or withdrawals that could occur in the workplace. So when you are using those techniques to control someone, most of the persons will think bullying occurs in school only. Most of them will kind of, in their mind, they will think bullying, school bullying. But a school, somebody who bullies in school, figures have shown 1 in 4 of those perpetrators, by the age of 30, 1 in 4 of them would be a criminal. That behavior in school could translate in a home behavior, domestic bullying or domestic violence, and also workplace violence or workplace bullying, which we are seeing more and more. There's what you call desk rage, work rage, that experience at persons in work.
So now, is it in the workplace, as we're talking about workplace, is it usually a boss being the perpetrator, the victim being the employee? Or can it be employee-employee?
Yes. So it could be employee-employee. So therefore, what is found, though, is that employee-employee may come in
at the same level?
At the same level.
Really?
And yeah, so sometimes you may come into an organization to work, and the office politics would be there, where they look at you as a stranger. You may be different. They may be jealous of how you dress. They may pick on you because they figure you may be better than them. So it's usually an individual who feel insecure, or among themselves, they have what they call a group pack, where they gang up against this new person, and they may pick on that individual. So it can be at that same level. And also, there are certain individuals in organizations, which we call the gatekeepers, where they may be getting all the information from everybody. And sometimes
playing both sides.
Yes, so they may withhold information from a new individual. So therefore, you get a task from the boss, but the gatekeeper herself or himself may decide, look, I'm not going to give you the information to help you. And I now I have that power over you. So you have that at that level. You also have the level at a boss. And a study in Australia actually looked at the CEOs. And it was in 2008. And they found about 27% of the CEOs had psychopathic, or what you call anti-social personality disorder personalities. So
That's
this
incredible.
And what is found out, the same study, when they looked at
what percentage is
27%.
27%.
So the Australian study showed that, and UK, I think it was 32%, which is strange because so you may go into an environment and meet a toxic boss whose whole idea is his idea of feeling good is to demean other persons or demean persons. So this is something we have to be aware of.
So the perpetrator does this in order to feel better about themselves?
To feel better. Also, they found that your personality and antisocial personality disorder, or if you have a sort of a psychopathic person, you use people. You have no problems of using people to advance yourself. So you may actually cause confusion in the workplace. You use from one to the other, deny people certain things, cause that confusion. So you look good. You look at the only one performing, and then you get easily promoted. So the nature of that is, if you end up in an organization with a toxic boss, it is trouble for that individual. So it's something that we have seen, we have noted, and the difficulty sometimes is when you're going to seek. You see, if you have to complain, who now are you going to complain to? Exactly. You are in an environment, and your boss is the one who has a problem.
But does the boss, these personalities, do they pick on or target a specific personality, their victim, or is it across the board? Across the board,
because their idea, you see, initially, they may target persons who they figure they can use and get on and get advancement. But when they're in that top position, it's their personalities. Remember, that is how they function, that is how they are wired. And so their idea is you have to make somebody's life miserable. And you're going to use that opportunity to make those persons under you miserable.
So what are the options available for an employee who feels bullied at the workplace by a boss, by a supervisor, somebody in a higher position than them? What's the recourse? What would you advise?
Well, you see, this is a difficulty if that's the guy in charge of you. So therefore, what we tend to do is tell, you try to talk to the boss, but you have to understand, if he has a personality problem, he may not change. So you write to the HR department. So you have to have something in writing, leave some sort of paper trail. You have to now, besides having that in writing, you seek help from the employees'
what about victimization?
That can occur too. So you go to the employees' assistance program. So you actually tell them how you're feeling. You're not happy coming to work. You're getting a migraine every time you come to work. When you come there, you feel you're not comfortable. And remember, OSHA Act says that the employer is duty-bound to provide a safe working environment for an individual. So you can look at the OSHA Act too and make a complaint there that you're not happy in that situation.
So they write to HR. They
go for counseling.
Go for counseling
so you show the level
with EAP.
Of stress.
And what about IR?
But so the labor, if you have a labor body, you go to that body also. And then, so remember, the Ministry of Labor has a complaints part also. So you do that. Now, again, you may be victimized further because remember, these guys are ingrained in their habits.
And isn't that how they perpetuate their action? Because they know that person, they're going to get the information anyway that HR, they made a report to HR.
Yes.
So, I mean, in reality, is it almost like you jeopardize it?
But you see, in reality, the Ministry of Labor or even HR, the Ministry of Labor could ask, does this person has that pattern of behavior?
Okay.
So you look at other individuals who have left that. If there's a high turnover of individuals under that character, you now will bring them into the picture and say, why is that so? Why is that so? But you see, sometimes it's difficult to go into a private organization who has their own CEO and has their own means. It's private. But you see, if you are not safe in that environment, not feeling safe, getting mentally stressed, you do have a case where you
Would you
can...
advise them to leave that toxic environment?
Leave, but leave a trail where, in case that individual, you can make a case against that individual. So remember, if they are not, you are caught up in that situation where you're stressing out and you are not able to maneuver around, regardless of who you went to, labor, union, whatever. It may reach a level where, for your own mental safety or your sanity, you may just have to leave that organization if you're not getting that recourse.
Yeah.
But remember, bullies start from school too. So an individual like that may have been a bully in his school and nobody nipped it in the bud or tried to nip it in the bud. Now, some persons, you could nip it in the bud. So let us say an individual in school sees violence at home or in the community. They will act out violent as a child because that is how they learn.
Right.
You call that social learning theory. If they find nobody is punished for violence act, you have gang leaders, that violence. You come in school and you want to mash up the place. You have persons who are themselves abused at home will come and act out in school. And you have those individuals who may have, some children have what you call conduct disorders. And a conduct disorder, some of them will like to light fires, kill pets, and all these things. Now, those children could go on into adulthood and be somebody with a personality disorder, is what we call a psychopath or antisocial personality disorder.
Okay.
So if we could catch them in school before.
So a lot hinges on the
Teachers.
to detect and pick up, listen to the kids when they complain or they come crying. In terms of the victim has a role to, to tell, to inform.
To inform, yeah.
What's the role of the perpetrator? What do we do to help that perpetrator? Because they also are people who are hurting.
Hurting, right. So, well, the thing is, let us say in a school environment, we have found that even though somebody has been bullied, and they may come home and don't want to squeal. They figure they shouldn't even tell their parents. So a child will come home and just change his personality, withdrawn, depressed, anxious, don't want to go to school, have what you call psychosomatic problems where they have headache every time they have to go to school, Monday, tummy pains, but not verbalize to the parent, I'm being bullied. So the first thing, you have to get that level where we have a no bully policy in schools. So it has to be there with signs saying that it's a bully-free environment. So the ethos of the school has to be such that it encourages no violence and no bullying. So therefore, a child would know that I can reach for help and get help. There's a program, OVIAS program. This is a OVIAS. OVIAS is a Holland. It's a doctor who actually got a program of anti-bullying policy and program. And we try to implement it down here too. So we look at that formula. And the formula actually says that they should have, sometimes you will have cameras in the hallway, in the play field, or greater observation. Because children says when they go in the toilets, they may be bullied there.
That's
they may be right. So you have a toilet cleaner, to be in and out. Some children say when they go in the taxi stand, they're bullied there. So the community police has to be in the taxi stand there where the children after school.
We have that kind of personnel?
Well, there are, there's always things, like a flash in the pan, and then things just well. Because even in the days when Mrs. Hazel Manning was the Minister of Education, she had something called a Violence Prevention Academy, VPA, where she brought on American criminologists. And in 35 schools, they laid out a plan. But when she went out of office, it went out a bit, so it wasn't followed through. When Mr. Gopi Singh was minister, he now again pushed a policy. Because at that time, I think some child died in school, and they actually had scanners in school to look for weapons. So again, you would have had each administration trying something, even with when the previous Minister of Education, not the present one, he actually again said that there's the crime prevention plan. There's a plan actually where he wanted to implement in school, where it was an old plan, a 2008 plans, where we are looking at school, how there's violence in school, how we could prevent violence in school. But really speaking, you have to identify the perpetrators.
What would you say to the parents of kids who have been bullied? How would you advise them?
Well, okay, so you look at the child's personality, recognize what it is, get that child to engage you. Now, there is a system where, according to the Education Act, Section 27, a principal is duty-bound to provide a safe place for our kids, a safe place of learning.
Yeah.
So there's always the legal option. But we don't jump to the legal option. We say first, you write a letter to the principal, you write a letter to the teacher, and you write the incident, you name the perpetrator, and you said that my child had this incident, we want a meeting. You take notes of that meeting, but you have an action plan. What are you going to do? Because sometimes certain principals may want to dust it under the carpet. They don't want this to get out of the school. They don't want their school to be labeled as a school with violence and bullying. So therefore, you have to have that action plan written down, minuted. And if it continues, then you now go a stage further.
I think it's important that everybody understands that bullying occurs everywhere.
Yeah, it's a global phenomenon.
Yeah, and I think the perpetrators will continue doing it as long as they can get away with it.
Yes.
And it's really important that even those, besides the victims, the people who are looking on should also take it upon themselves to inform, say something. You see something, you say something. And rather than allow a bully to...
And you are so right. And this is why there's something called bystander activism. And this is why we try to encourage the other kids to come out and say it. So OVIS had actually recommended that there's the anonymous reporting. So you have a little box, and people could just put something in and say, I saw this, and this happened. So then they look at it and say, well, this individual, his name is cropping up. So the anonymous reporting was one. And also, we try to encourage the bystander activism, where people will come together and say, hey, this is wrong. And you see, you have to, whatever is going on in a child's life, home, violence, community, that child has to know, when I step into school, I'm spending 8 hours there. And that 8 hours, it's a new environment. It's an environment, a safe environment. Plus, the perpetrator has to know it's an environment. I can't step out of line. Whatever goes home in the community, I have to learn. So we're now teaching that child that there are consequences if you now want to bully, if you want to tax your colleague to get money.
There's so much we could talk about bullying,
yes, it is.
And the time just flew. But if there was one piece of advice you want to give the parents, not even the parents, the viewers out there, the victims of bullying, if they feel they know somebody or they are themselves victims of bullying, what piece of advice would you want to offer them?
I would offer them an advice. You have to open up to your parents, to your teachers, to the principal. You have to open up to somebody to let them know what's going on. Because the worst thing you could go is go home in silence and suffer. By doing that, it's an injustice to yourself, and you can end up with some problems. So therefore, the idea is to be able to realize there are safe places. You can speak to your parents, you can speak to your teacher, you can speak to your principal. But the idea is to start that discussions, because if you stay there, if a bully gets away with it, he grows stronger with each person he bullies. And you now will end up withdrawing and getting more problems and emotional problems. So we have to nip that in the bud.
Got to get them to say something, talk it out.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, heart disease claims a life every 34 seconds. Our relative sitting down across the table is experiencing a heart attack as we speak.
It is important to seek medical attention urgently because prompt treatment of a heart attack could prevent extensive damage and death. Therefore, one should try to get to a hospital as soon as possible, preferably by ambulance.